So when you're zeroing a piece of material to get the origin for your project, you got a couple of options. Stepcraft makes this 3D touch probe, which is extremely accurate, and I have it mounted into a tool holder that fits into the ATC. So I'm going to put it into the tool holder. Now I'm going to position it at this spot right here. So let me go ahead and position the probe where it needs to go. Just needs to be right above that corner spot. So I'll move this out of the way, and I'm going to activate the macro. So what it did is now it's positioned the probe exactly at that 0 point based on where it touched off on each of those edges, the left side and the bottom side. For a simple zeroing, indexing of your project to get that X and Y 0, I thought it would be useful to come up with a macro that just uses the TLS that most everybody has. And this was inspired by the idea that you can do, or this is done with a macro for the 4th axis. So when you're using the 4th axis accessory, you place your material in the chuck here, but you need to know where the center point is, both from the X or the Y, depending on how your axes are set up in the project. But you need to find this center point. And the macros that are set up for the 4th axis use the TLS by placing it along the side and then probing so that the TLS is activated, and then calculations are made to compensate for the thickness of the TLS along with the known distance from this edge to the center. And that's how you find that, that exact center point. So I thought it would be useful to have a similar type of macro where you probe against the left and the bottom edge to get the location of this corner. So I'll demonstrate it. The first thing you need to do is you're going to align your TLS on the left side and to the align with the bottom edge. And then I have the macro currently assigned to user macro 2. I'm going to activate it, and it comes up with a dialog that just explains what the macro is going to do. We'll go ahead and click OK. And then it's going to give you the first instructions, which is to place the TLS sideways against the left side, like this, and to make sure that the button is facing to the left and also aligned to the bottom. And then the next thing you do is you position the spindle with the bit, and I have a 1/4 inch bit installed. Optimally, what you want to do is you would take a bit and probably insert it upside down so that the shaft, the round shaft, is sticking out, and you use that as your probing tool, and that would ensure that you got the right the diameter, because these flutes, depending on how this is turned, can be a little further in or out. It won't give you an exact reading, but just for the purposes of this demonstration, I'll show you how the macro works, and I'll make sure that the flute of the of this particular downcut end mill is at its widest point when it comes into contact with the button. So we're going to position the spindle, and we're going to move the bit down so that when the macro moves it sideways, it's going to come into contact with that button. So let me just tweak the position here. Okay, so now it's going to move it from here, from the left to the right, and touch up against that button to get the left edge coordinate. So now we'll click OK. And it's gotten that X, it's gotten the left edge to use as the X0. So now it comes up with the dialog that says to remove the TLS, because what's going to happen is it's going to move from here to here diagonally, and just to make sure that there's no obstructions. So I'll click OK. Now the dialog that comes up is to place the TLS against the bottom side this time, and with the button facing towards the bit, because now the macro is going to move the bit towards the button along the y-axis. So I'll click OK. Now that it's gotten the left and the bottom sides of that material, the dialog that comes up says that it's going to move it to that X and Y0. So I'll click OK. And now you've got your X and Y0 points. The last thing you will need to do is to get your Z0, and depending on whether you have it zeroing to the bed in your project or zeroing to the surface, that's what you'll need to do. So I'll go ahead and do that now. I will move the spindle to go through a normal probing sequence. Just position that, and I'll hit probe. So now it's got the Z0. Now if I hit go to 0, it's given me my actual 0 point at that corner. You can see that the bit is centered right on that corner. The center of the bit is over that corner. Again, it's not as accurate as the 3D touch probe, but you can see for the purposes of this type of work, you can see that this works really well.